Hey, I'm Chris with How to Politics, and politics has finally caught up with Trump and the Republican Party. After months of stalwart opposition, including the president personally lobbying members of Congress, dragging them into the Situation Room, members of Congress on the record and off the record opposing it, Congress has all but unanimously passed the bill requiring DOJ to disclose Epstein files. The president is expected to sign it if he hasn't already by the time this posts. So, quick reminder of why we should care. We should care because sex crimes against children happened. Powerful people might have been involved. Powerful people might have gotten away with it or gotten away with helping because they were powerful people. That's bad. So the bill sailed through Congress after Trump reversed his position on it. After seeing the result of the House vote, which was 427 to 1, and then the result of the Senate vote, which was unanimous, it makes sense why Trump reversed course. He had conversations with Republicans who said, hey, look, lots of us are going to have to sign this. Lots of us are going to have to sign off on this. And Trump didn't want a whole bunch of stories of Republicans rebuke Trump in overwhelming vote. You know, he doesn't want, once he gets to the point where he knows his veto would be overridden, there's no point in publicly opposing the thing. So, of course, he supports it. But once Trump supports it, what's the argument for a Republican opposing it? So, of course, Trump supports it. Now it sails through. Of course, after that happens, though, the White House is so mad. The White House is out with a whole bunch of anonymous quotes talking about how they're going to get retribution and go after Democrats. Like everything else with them, it's just partisan bullshit all the way down. They want to go after Stacey Plaskett and try to make an example of her. So Stacey Plaskett is a Democratic member of the House, represents the U.S. Virgin Islands. She was apparently texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing where she was questioning Trump's former attorney. It's pretty obvious from the timing and the information that Epstein was influencing Stacey Plaskett's questioning of the witness. But going after Stacey Plaskett and saying you're going to make an example of her is completely missing the point. This is not a partisan exercise. I think the fact that Stacey Plaskett was being influenced by Epstein while she was in a hearing is good information for her voters. Stacey Plaskett should have to defend to her voters what she was doing and why. And that's the case of every politician who might be involved here. Democrat or Republican, none of them should be protected. For the record, Trump said that the DOJ should investigate Bill Clinton and Larry Summers and some other Democratic figures because all these guys were friends of Jeffrey Epstein's. Well, Trump appears hundreds of times in the files. So after the bill passes, I'm still kind of pessimistic about it, but it's better than I thought. So assuming that Trump signs this bill, then the fight moves to compliance, whether or not the White House and DOJ are actually releasing the files, releasing all of the files, and doing so according to the law. This is an easier fight for Trump. And frankly, I've always been surprised that Trump wasn't more willing to have this fight where he's the one in control of the records. The DOJ gets to decide what they're investigating. All of the technicalities involved in the law, the requirement for explanations, makes it harder to communicate against this. There's a whole bunch of possible ways that Trump has around this. One that a lot of people have talked about is active investigations. The law that the House passed would allow the DOJ to withhold information that's connected to ongoing investigations. So a lot of people rightly think the DOJ is going to use active investigations as a pretext for withholding some of the Epstein files. The other big thing, which I've been looking at, is the prospect of redactions. So the bill would let the president make up criteria for redacting and use that criteria to redact anything, and then keep the reasoning for why he redacted those things secret as a matter of national security. So, for example, he could come up with the reasoning that it's bad for the president to be exposed as a criminal because it creates the prospect of leverage, blackmail, and manipulation that third parties could have against the president since they have evidence that he committed a crime. That's absurd. But the president could sign an executive order saying that that's the criteria by which he's withholding his own name from the files. And that assessment would have to be kept secret under the bill that the House just passed. Yeah, under the bill, The president would have to report to Congress and publish to the Federal Register any of those redactions. But once the redactions are classified, then there's no way for the public to know what they are. There's no way for Congress to know what they are, except the individual members who are authorized to receive classified information. So it's always been a possibility that the president could just decide that he needs to redact his name out of the files and then keep a secret the fact that he redacted the name out of the files. There is a little bit of hope here because Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene have said that they will go on the House floor and read out names if the files aren't released sufficiently by the Trump administration, which that's great. That would insulate them from prosecution for revealing classified secrets. But you'd still have the specter of the Justice Department selectively releasing information that doesn't hurt the president. The other big reason that this is an easier fight for Trump now is that Republicans are more likely to give him political cover. Republicans in Congress don't have to vote for this, so it's a lot easier for them to say, hey, listen, the DOJ is doing its investigations. We have to let investigations play out. We can't demand files while the investigations are going. The enforcer here would be Congress. And so if Congress wants to just sit on its hands about making the DOJ turn over these files, they can. There are, however, risks for Trump involved here. Remember, the Epstein estate has its own set of files. The DOJ might not know all of the files that the Epstein estate has, and the Epstein estate files are disclosed through Congress. So those redactions might be different than the redactions that are made to the DOJ version of the files. Also, more importantly, Trump is a lame duck. The more of these fights that he loses, the more that he loses his grip, the more that it becomes clear that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie can step out of line and not face any real repercussions from it, except obviously disgusting personal attacks on social media. This is a fight worth having because we can't allow powerful people to get away with sex crimes against children because they're powerful people. That's it. A member of Jeffrey Epstein's orbit was elected president. A whole bunch of powerful people were connected with him when he was doing sex crimes. And so we should investigate that wherever it leads, to Democrats, to Republicans, to the president, away from the president. I don't care. We need justice for the victims. The end. That's why this is a fight worth having. This is not partisanship. This is not a conspiracy. This is just law enforcement. If you watched this deep in the video, thank you very much. Let me know your thoughts in the comments because I'd love to hear them. I hope you consider subscribing. And as always, thank you for watching. I'm Chris with How to Politics.